Oh, very good morning. If you've just tuned in, it's just after 7 o'clock. Of course, our special coverage this morning as we pay respects to the life and times of the late Pope Francis. We know that that funeral of Pope Francis will be taking place in Rome today at around 10 a.m. Of course, following what's set to happen, his coffin will, go through a procession and the funeral itself will be taking place in St. Peter's Square in front of the Basilica, where his body has been laying in state for about 3 days. Procession route that's also then set to take place is set to take approximately half an hour, will pass through several historic Roman landmarks. This also includes the Colosseum. We also know that last night the coffin of Pope Francis was sealed after thousands of faithfuls visited on the final day of viewing. As we know, known in the church as the rite of the closing of the coffin of the Roman pontiff. The sealing ceremony was held by Archbishop Diego Ravelli as well as Cardinal Kevin Farrell in St. Peter's Basilica. More than 100,000 mourners, they filed into St. Peter's Basilica just yesterday to pay their respects to Pope Francis, viewing his open coffin in the final visiting hours that were permitted. It's SABC News senior reporters Chriselda, Khayelihle, Khumalo as well. They're on Pretoria and Waterkloof this morning. They're going to be joining us live from Pius X Catholic Church in Waterkloof, where Holy Memorial Mass will be taking place at 10 a.m. this morning. It also coincides with the official start of the funeral. Good morning to the both of you, and thank you for joining us at this hour. We're obviously building up to the expectations ahead of the funeral taking place in Rome today, but there's also, local gatherings. Perhaps you could tell us what's expected at Mass today.
Well, hello to you, Liesl, live, as you indicated, from the St. Pius Catholic Church here in Pretoria, where this special service will be held for Pope Francis. Of course, I'm Chriselda Lewis. I'm not alone.
Well, absolutely, Chriselda. A very poignant moment as the world is bidding farewell to Pope Francis.
Well, absolutely. The death, of course, of Pope Francis, having been announced by Cardinal Kevin Farrell, as you indicated, Khumalo of the Apostolic Chamber, after having been confirmed by medical doctors. You'd recall, Kai, you'd recall the moment of that announcement. Pope Francis was said to have, dedicated his entire life himself to the service of the Lord and of the Church, and that he taught many to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, Kaya, courage, as well as universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and the most marginalized, Kaya.
Well, absolutely, Chriselda. We know that the announcement of his death, it was also said that many were grateful for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus. And he was quite frail at the very advanced age of 88 years, but had been ill for much of this year. He was admitted to Rome's Khumalo Hospital in February, Chriselda, suffering from pneumonia in both lungs. After more than a month, of course, the Pope was discharged from hospital on Sunday, we recall, on the 23rd of March. And as a child, Chriselda, we know that the pontiff really had that upper lobe of his right lung removed due to a very serious infection.
That's right, Kai. So amongst those, Liesl expected to speak at this Mass here this morning include the Pope's representative to South Africa and the Archbishop of Pretoria. In the next hour, we'll be speaking to them. And in fact, Kaya, the Pope's representative, will share with us later on this morning the last moments that he shared with the Pope. In fact, he had a conversation with the Pope last year. This was before his departure to South Africa. You know, of course, that South Africa has a representative. The Pope's representative to South Africa will be joining us here this morning, sharing some of those key moments. He had also spent some time with him between 2013 and 2015. In fact, they were sharing a house at the time. And at the time that, Pope Francis had been elected, he was present at that very important moment. So we're likely to hear, a lot of details about a very personal relationship that the two had.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kaya and Chriselda, I know that it is very early ahead of the memorial mass that's set to take place. But if we're looking at social media, if we're looking at the sentiments that had been reflected, the impact that the Pope has had, what's been reflected, perhaps also if we're going to be speaking to ordinary congregants who are going to be coming out to attend that mass, what's been reflected about his impact?
Well, of course, Liesl, the sentiments that have been shared, since the announcement of the passing of the Pope was that this was a Pope of the people. His heart, at the center of his heart, was the poorest of the poor. And you'll recall, Kai, I think it was in 2013, and this was at his first visit out of Rome. He had visited one of the areas where it was an island, an Italian island, and of Lampedusa, the Italian island of Lampedusa. And specifically to highlight, given that this was the son of an Italian migrant, the first visit out of Rome had been that to this island of Lampedusa, Italian island of Lampedusa. And he was there to highlight the plight of migrants who died trying to cross the Mediterranean. So, his heart was very close to the marginalized, was very close to the poor. And Kai, I'm sure you'd be able to add there, that is much of the sentiment of what we've seen, was that this was a Pope for the poor. He also urged the church, to include everyone. He didn't want the church to be self-centered. He did not want the church to leave anyone out. Those are some of the words that we've heard, Kaya, indeed.
Absolutely, Chriselda, and it's been really just fascinating gauging the reactions from the White House to the Kremlin, from right in South Africa as well. We saw President Ramaphosa saying that this was a global spiritual leader who inspired the world, the humanity, who was always there for the inclusion. You had President Vladimir Putin of Russia saying that this was a very outstanding man who was there, Chriselda, fostering the dialogue between the Orthodox churches and also the Roman Catholic, especially because given the clout, after all, this was a man who was very full of really courage, but also that's really quite a very important moment for him because very outspoken, so many times he had so many clashes, even with the US President Donald Trump. We do understand is going to attend the service in the Vatican City, especially around the way in which really the policies around migration and how the migrants are being treated in the US. But also quite a very interesting time because one of the last people that he spoke to was the Vice President of the US, Chriselda, J.D. Vance.
Yes, absolutely. And Kaya, what we had seen with the election of Pope Francis, it was indeed a historic moment. The first non-European out of Latin America. What was it, in 1300 years, a non-European being elected as the Pope. So I would guess around the world, there, Liesl, including here in South Africa, here at the St. Pius Catholic Church, there'll be many moments that will be shared and reflections on the life and times of Pope Francis. We're expecting that service to get underway right here this morning, expecting many congregants as well to come and share in this particular moment, certainly as the world is watching.
Well, thanks, Chriselda, and thank you, Kaya. We certainly are going to be chatting to you in just a moment. Thank you very much for painting that succinct picture, Chriselda Lewis and Khayelihle Khumalo there in Waterkloof in Pretoria. A Holy Memorial Mass service is also going to be taking place there, and we'll be bringing you rolling coverage from that area as well.